Good evening, everyone. This is Vision Speak, and we are the Save St. Francis Xavier group. We're interested in St. Francis Xavier School. It's an empty school building at Spruce and Orange, and with lots of potential to serve the neighborhood and to serve our community as a whole. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone on to Tim Bernard to introduce himself. We'll just each introduce ourselves. We have, first of all, Tim Bernard this evening. Tim?
Yeah, my name's Tim Bernard, and I'm a writer and a builder in town here. I've done a project you might know about, the skating rink out at the fairgrounds. I was one of the primary people involved in getting it going, and actually built the one at Playfair Park, an outdoor rink that we maintained for about 20 years before we built the refrigerated rink there in town. And so I know how to put together a large project. I was involved in the planning, the contracts, the financing, and the work on the project. And I know how when a community gets together and gets behind something, you can get a large project done for a very small amount of money if you'd go about it the right way. And that's something we're trying to do here. We have a beautiful school building, 30,000 square feet that's paid for. And we're going to begin to lay out an overview tonight, and then in coming shows we're going to show you some not only hard, cold numbers, but some of the multitude of things that we can do if we come together as a community and do something for ourselves and for our children especially, and for the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tim. And now on to James Weir. James is with the AFL-CIO here. And James, could you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, I work for the Montana State AFL-CIO for a federally funded program which helps anyone who's been laid off from their job. We can help retrain, relocate them to get back into the workforce as soon as possible. And my interest in this project is that I've become increasingly interested and increasingly concerned about the livability of cities and places where people live. And because it seems to me that a lot of the time the planning that goes on is built around automobiles, it's built around commerce, it's built around buildings, it's built around aesthetics, but it's not built people. And after all, where we live is a place where we need to develop it and be aware of the fact that people live there. And I think the Francis Xavier campus is an example of where we could reuse and adapt existing buildings with historical and aesthetic interest,
yes,
and reuse them, as Tim was saying, for a multitude of uses, and keep them in the community alive and well, and actually be able to be touched, and not just in photographs and videos and movies and people's recollections and memories.
Well, thank you, James, and those are some important points. And you know, it's our hope. Some of us are members of the parish there, and so it's our hope that by the parish opening up somewhat its doors as a community center to all of Missoula, that we therefore, or in that way, become greater participants in our own community, and in a great sense, that is carries forth actually the original work of the church, which, and here I'm going to refer to some recent programs we've done, which were the History Speak programs. I guess I've launched into some ideas here, but and I better just say who I am. By the way, I'm Tom Moylan, and I'm a retired physician, and we've become involved with this process when we realized that the building was really looking for uses, and and there's a large movement of individuals very interested in this whole issue. So we just are representing those ideas to you on the television as we speak here. And going back to the idea that we have a history, in the past had a number of history programs, and those played off of the fact that the Native American people had the vision to bring the Jesuit fathers here, and that is the original settlement, at least of this part of Montana and this part of the West, was that the Jesuit fathers came in and ministered to and ministered with the Native American people, so that they brought the medicine, they brought agriculture, they brought things of that nature. But looking back at our Native American, the leadership of our Native American people, the idea of visioning or of vision is important. And so that's how we come to this idea that we are seeking, of course, the vision quest of the young Native American as they grow into full adulthood. And so we are, in a sense, on a kind of a modern vision effort here, and that vision has somewhat been stimulated by this. Portland, Oregon has a city repair project. You'll be viewing some of that footage soon, but we have it's a so I'm going to go ahead and before we start that footage, see if you gentlemen have some comments about that footage.
Well, one thing I'd like to say, something to notice on the video, is how just a few people got something started, and what you'll notice is that once the ball gets rolling, it's just like a snowball rolling downhill, and it just gathers steam and momentum, and more people come on, because quite a few of the jobs and quite a few of the places to plug in at this St. Francis Xavier Development Project will be very simple tasks that a lot of people can do, from retired people who have extra time on their hands and want to maybe mentor or do a little bit for their community, to the very young children that just want to get involved and have a better place for themselves and for future children coming after them to live. And this is something that Jim has experienced a lot over in Europe.
Yeah, if people realize what the landscape of Europe, why people like Europe and why people are drawn to Europe and why people go to Europe, is because the sense of community and the fact that the cities and most of the towns, villages, cities of Europe are built on a human scale. And most of them, when they were bombed out of existence almost in the World War II, when they came to rebuild them, they did not build them as a 21st century city built around high-speed networks and automobiles and autobahns and stuff. They built them around as they were before because they were built on a human scale. And I think this is one of the things I got out of this video, is that the people are looking to build and live in human-oriented, human-scale cities and places to be and live and work. And I think the other thing that Tim was mentioning about where the future generations are coming from, I think what I see is, and what I'd like to see, is that Missoula is an amazing place. What it's got right now for community involvement and community places, the out to lunch in the Caras Park. The Caras Park is used all the time. And there's all sorts of things, anything from the most esoteric, which I enjoy, organ recitals up at the university, to basketball and football and whatever else. You've got a whole spectrum of stuff. And I'd like to see the Francis Xavier complex or campus be reused and integrated into that, because I think it could play a magnificent role in helping to stimulate and keep that going.
Well, thank you very much, James. And that's, interestingly, we read the first night, and so here's St. Francis Xavier Church playing a role in providing an open space. It's a sacred space, yes, but it was utilized by music groups to be as part of, along with other churches in town, who opened their doors and said, yes, we're a sacred space, and because of that, we want to, not only in the sacred moments of life, but also in those moments of joy where people are reaching out for aspects of their spiritual life that are, say, addressed by music. And so music performances were put on there first night, and other things like this have been done. So that said, let us go into this first segment of the City Repair Project. Mark Lakeman is the director of this, or one of the intense workers in this City Repair Project in Portland, Oregon, and just see what they have been doing to transform, as they put it, transform space into place out in Oregon. And we'll be right back with you, and thanks for staying with us.
Is the shortest distance between 2 points all that life is about? Is that all there is? Shouldn't life be a journey? Or is it just that it begins and ends according to a journey that's all known in advance?
In some ways, our cities are not built at a human scale. Our cities are not built for people to walk and to meet on the street. They're mostly built for people to move quickly in a car or on a bus from one place to another.
The city doesn't exist for the passage of automobiles. It exists for people. So design the city for people, and lots of other things that are wonderful and healthy will happen if that's your design assumption.
What if it wasn't a priority for the developers to create a landscape where people would speak? I mean, does anyone feel at home in a box? Does anyone feel at home where there is no sense of place, where there is no differentiation? You travel within the grid and you see where you're going the whole time. There's no subtlety, there's no surprises, there's very little that feeds your senses. It's simply a question of getting from one destination to the next with little in the way of interaction or experience or communication or relationship building along the way. The grid is specifically designed to not have that utility, to simply be a transportation corridor, to walk on this side and walk on this side, but not necessarily meet each other unless you collide in a car. The grid that we inhabit is called the Roman grid. The greater part of the story is that it was established in 1785 through the National Land Ordinance of the Continental Congress. They were looking at a way to organize westward expansion. The grid has essentially moved through time. It's become normal to many people, and yet its impact in dividing people and organizing their lives remains the same, profound, ensuring social isolation.
I don't think the grid is the villain of the piece. I think it's how the grid has been used in this country, or too often in this country, to be mostly about the movement of cars.
If people have more opportunities to interact with other people and have more variability in their experience, then they have a chance to do just about anything, to solve their problems, to learn, to advance their ideas, and to have a more fulfilling and creative experience with other people.
So where do you do those things? Where do you get to be an American if you don't have the public gathering place? So that was the genius of intersection repair and city repair's work, is to say, remember public space? We should have that too. Let's create it.
City Repair started in a neighborhood in Portland where the neighbors felt the need to create a public gathering place in their community. We facilitate the design process and assist neighborhoods in the creation of the public place, and we also bring people together in large citywide celebrations around the idea of public placemaking. Initially, many people interact with the City Repair project through some of our mobile projects like the Earth Day celebration and the Tea Horse. We are sharing food, sharing tea. There's usually music involved, and it's an event where people come together and they begin to think about the possibility of creating a permanent place in their neighborhood where that sort of activity could happen daily.
Okay, I think I can understand that, but it was a stretch for me. I'm a believer in public space. I'm an advocate for the common good, but this was something pretty strange and radical to me.
We're back with you here, and we're the Save St. Francis Xavier group. You just saw the first few minutes of a discussion of the City Repair Project. It happens to be what they call the Intersection Repair Project. And I'm going to paraphrase, but they do say to the idea that the process of city planning is incomplete in its failure to provide public space. And so So we need places where the blessings of civilization for discourse, random encounters, song and dance, the exchange of ideas. And so paraphrasing, that's, yes, we are creating cities, but are we creating public spaces in such a way as to serve our populace? And I think, James, you've had some ideas about that.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, I was going to lead into Tim and let him talk more about this, but what I noticed about this segment and the segments to come is that the involvement of children and young people in all kinds of tasks. They were there with all kinds of ages of people, and they were performing a useful task, not something that was a make work, give them something just to do it, to keep them out of trouble. Here, they were actually painting and making a contribution to the establishment and the continuance of the project. And I think that's one of the things I've heard Tim talk a lot about, is how we can help that segment of the population. Because a lot of the times kids in this society they just have nothing to do, there's nowhere to, well, actually, in my opinion, and this is not the reflection of the St. Francis, I think we warehouse them in schools for up to their 18 years of age. Yeah. Because they don't seem to have any practical involvement in society in a lot of cases. You know?
Well, absolutely, and I think that's one of the problems we have. People are always complaining about teenagers getting in trouble and stuff, but one of the biggest things that parents don't want to deal with are teenagers, and that's one of the things we are proposing over here is a place to have a gathering place for teenagers to come and share ideas. I mean, granted, it has to be chaperoned. They aren't going to be able to run the show. But there's a lot of things, a lot of ideas out there that they have, that older people have. And kids want to learn because, especially teenagers, they're right on the edge of becoming adults.
Could I just interrupt you there, Tim, and comment on the fact that you said that teenagers need to be chaperoned? I think there's also another component to that, in the fact that children or young people or young adults like to have a safe environment. They like to know that there's somebody in charge, that they're not going to be suddenly a gang is going to come in and disrupt what they're going to do. And I think chaperoning is also a component of having a safe environment for kids.
Right.
You know?
I mean, and it's not chaperoning is one way, but it's also like mentoring. It's not like someone coming in and an overseer and pushing you around. It's just an environment where people can come in, share ideas. One of the things would be to have dances and stuff like that, where people can come and, like you say, be safe. The parents know that their kids are safe. It's what they're getting into. We're upfront, and we'd be open to everyone at a low to minimal cost. Because one of the biggest costs in doing anything is your. And here we have a structure that's paid for. With very, very little improvements, basically painting, superficial stuff, quite frankly. We can have there's a beautiful auditorium with a full stage there, with nice curtains, where we've been contacted with university, has a very vibrant arts department and theater group, and everybody knows about MTC here in the city. I mean, it's one of the major things in this city, and they have a worldwide reputation, and they'd love to come in and do stuff at this stage. You know.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So this is a thing that can be catching, as you said, Tim, snowball. It can snowball, and we have the opportunity. I was back in Washington, D.C., talking to those folks about all this, and they said, "Hey, you're 85% of the way there. You have a building." Now, in this segment we just viewed, you saw them talking about the Roman grid. And, it's kind of interesting. It's been said, well, what about buildings? Do they have a limited lifespan or something, And I think on previous programs we've agreed that this building, this St. Francis Xavier School, has a span of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ahead of it. But one small example being that when you go into the Tower of London, you can look back through the years, and some of it was built by the Normans, by William the Conqueror, but when you go back far enough and look at the walls associated with the Tower of London, you see classic Roman brickwork. Roman brickwork, similar to what you see in Rome itself, to this day, from the Romans 2,000 years ago. Why is that important? Because this is a beautifully, solidly constructed brick building, as Tim has said before.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who thinks that the building isn't stout and secure, all you have to do is walk around the outside of it, and there are no cracks in the brickwork. And so it's over 80 years old with no cracks. It is settled out. It's ready for the long term. It was very well built. This is millions of dollars. I mean, a minimum bid to replace this, and not with this level of construction, would be at least $3 to $4 million. And something built at this level of stoutness, you're looking at probably about $6 million. And here it is, paid for. I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And all of us know about the Dragon Hollow here in town, how a few people got together, started an idea, and boom, here we have a wonderful playground. We have the carousel. Missoula has a history of coming together and putting projects together for kids and for the community. And this is a beautiful example of how we can come together and have a wide range of activities under one roof, from the gym on one end, the auditorium on the other. There's a kitchen in the middle. There's 14,000 roughly square feet of classrooms that can be used for classrooms, small meeting rooms, and for other nonprofit organizations. It's just endless what we could do with this.
Thanks, Tim. And this may be just a little opportunity to mention to you viewers that if there's an interesting topic, and every week, in addition to this show you're watching, you can watch this every week, at least these early months of 2005, every week at 4:30. We're going to be in reruns we've done these shows monthly now for more than a year. And so we're going to be in reruns, and the show can be watched at 4:30 every Tuesday. So I hope you can tune in because we've had some interesting shows in the past. Poets Speak, Youth Speak, Neighborhood Speak, in each case addressing different aspects of this, because when you start on this, you start to realize that, my gosh, it's wonderfully diverse, and it's in fact life itself. That's all we're here. We're just discussing life itself.
Well,
James?
yeah, I think I would like, that's good lead into what I was going to say, or one of the comments I was going to make when somebody said in there, we have to define what our life is. And is our life just getting from point A to point B in the quickest and straightest route possible? Or is it, as most of us would agree, that life is a journey? And why not make it visually stimulating, emotionally stimulating, and physically stimulating by looking at buildings which are real, excellent, and you can touch them and you can feel the bricks, you can feel the roughness of them, you can go in and walk on the floors. So what if they creak? That's what all buildings are all about. It's the ambience that's inside it.
Yeah.
And I think if we can help to get the campus, the St. Francis Xavier campus back, that'll be an asset for everybody to come and view it and just walk around it and look at it and say, this is part of our city.
And live in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the neat thing that happened here on this city repair project out in Portland. They have other city repair projects out there, by the way. This happens to be what they call intersection repair. But yes, go ahead, James.
Amplify that, Tom, what you're talking about is we're not alone. This is not just a regional concept or a Missoula concept. We're in a part of a national realization. We've talked about the Home and Garden TV, Restore America, and the Discovery Channel, who are in national TV and international TV through the satellite TV channels to help preserve America's history, because they're afraid that what's going to happen is all going to be demolished, and all that's going to be left is videotapes, people's memories, and photographs. That's all that's going to be there. Now we're part of a national trend and a national realization that we have to preserve what we have physically, because it's so easy to come in and take a bulldozer and bulldoze it down, and it's gone.
Well, and Tim, go ahead.
And to be impersonal. That's one of the things we're lacking is public places to meet, and that's one of the things you'll see here, and that they talk about in the video, and they show it very beautifully how with just a little bit of effort here, and they're just talking about intersections. And you'll see how so many people are coming together and doing things and getting involved together, and a place for people to gather. And here we have a wonderful place where you can gather in this 30,000 square foot building out of the elements, because here we are in the middle of winter and it's a little brisk outside. And you can go inside into a warm place with a bunch of people and interact, share ideas, and learn from one another. As you go through life, one of the biggest ways to learn, you either have to reinvent the wheel every time, or if you work together, one of the things we'd like to do here is to build a library. And not a library that competes like with the library with a lot of books, but one that has a lot of talks and stuff where different people with different viewpoints can come and give speeches and talks, and a place for young people to come and mingle and share their ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And I think maybe this is a good chance to just mention the fact that we are going to be, this is maybe a good time to ask our viewers to just take a look at this second segment of the city repair project, and just take a look at this effort that they went into by going to work with the city council out there and actually getting people involved. By the way, there has been, as I understand it, an intersection repair project done in Missoula, and it does sort of come back. It received some interest in the press, and this is a number of years ago, but there was one or two intersections in Missoula taken over. And in a sense, what they're doing is they're going to the European model that you mentioned, James, and creating piazzas. You'll hear it mentioned on the video, folks. We'll break now so that you can take a look at that second segment. We'll be right back. Don't leave us. We'll be right back with you as that second segment finishes airing. It's just brief, only a matter of a couple minutes, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
The first response of city officials was to say, no, you can't do that. It's never been done before, and besides, that's public space, so no one can use it.
You know, from my point of view, I feel like our transportation officials were doing their job. They need to stop people from taking over the street. I want them to do that.
So we simply stepped across the line together. We broke the law literally, and shortly after that, by ordinance, the entire city was allowed to do it.
Say what you will about politicians, but when somebody comes to you as a politician and says, I've got a great idea, it's going to bring the community together, I'm going to do all the work, and it won't cost you a dime, it's pretty hard to say no to that.
We all stood there together. Grandmothers, little kids, whole families that had never known each other, even though they'd lived across the street from each other for 10 years. We're standing there together, having painted the street and built these lovely things on the corners, just saying, ours, our village, our turf, our place. Well, as soon as we put these projects in place on the ground, it transforms the bureaucracy and the political leadership.
So watching the transformational effect on bureaucratic thinking was a sideshow, but an added benefit to the transformational effect on people in the neighborhood and how they related to each other through that created public space.
Our ancestors did it for thousands upon thousands of years. In fact, having a sense of place at a crossroads or a gathering or a convergence of pathways is how we built culture. It's how we learned how to speak. It's how we first learned how to sing.
Well, it's good to be back with you, folks. We do enjoy talking about this building. We do see great possibilities, and a lot of people in Missoula, a fairly broad swath. You'll see Mark Lakeman is the gentleman that is well spoken on this video, and he's the younger fellow. He is a graduate architect, and he, as many architects, are concerned how can what we build serve people. Not the fancy of an architect or not the other types of, but how can it serve people? And he, as an architect, has gotten involved with this project and actually travels and was in Missoula in September of '04, and gave his blessing to the ideas that we're interested in here. We mentioned as we were leaving you that this piazza concept is a great one in Europe. There's the cities of especially as you go farther south into Spain and Italy, the piazzas, the plazas, are these large places. Well, here's these intersections are being made into miniature piazzas. And so what happened in their neighborhoods was rush hours were kind of, they had one-way streets had been run through people's neighborhoods trying to get cars of people in and out of work in Portland. And so what happened was the neighborhoods were being like kind of tattered and run into rags by this process of traffic running through. So by painting the intersections, they were able to actually kind of, the traffic kind of slows down and takes a look at these beautiful painted intersections because they're driving right over them. But then about, say, 5:30 or so, I don't mean 5:30, about 6:30 or 7 on a given Friday night, especially in the summer, or a given Saturday night, the intersection is roped off and it becomes a public plaza, a public piazza. James?
Well, one of the most astonishing things, if any of you have, as many you probably all have, been in France, I think one of the most astonishing things that I find about France when you go out into the countryside is you come into the French villages and you drive into the French village and it's very closely packed houses, narrow streets, you know, hardly two cars can pass, and you drive into the middle of town and then suddenly you burst out into this huge central place and it's full of people, it's full of shops, it's full of bazaars, it's full of markets. It's truly astonishing when you come into it. It's a visual trompe l'oeil, as they say in France, and it's amazing.
And they call it a place.
They call it the place, yeah.
And in Germany, a Platz, and in Italy, a piazza, and in Spain, a plaza, and we call it a place. But so we're transforming space into place. Tim?
Yep, and that's what we need to do here, and we need your help. There's a lots of ways for you to plug in. Tom will tell you about our website. There's a lot of little things that you can do. If you would just call the church or get a hold of us, we can tell you how you can make your voice heard. And that's all we need is just a bunch of ordinary people. You don't have to have a lot of skills. We just need people that care a little bit about the community, who want to get involved, if nothing else, by saying, yeah, we'd like to see this developed for our community, for our children, for the future of Missoula. Because this is an excellent opportunity, and there are not a lot of these buildings in the downtown that are sitting empty that are paid for.
No, that's true. This is the only gym. This is the only gym in downtown Missoula.
What I'd like to do is
at least available.
Continue what Tim was saying about the contact us. I mean, on the website, there's an email contact. Just get on there and tell us what you think. You know, get involved. Give us some ideas. Give us some direction. Do you think this is worthwhile? What would you like us to do next? Volunteer your services. Give us ideas. You know, experiences, whatever you like. Just get on to the internet and contact us.
It's a good time to be a snowball. It's a good time to be a snowball. We're just a snowball rolling and trying to pick up steam. Our phone number, by the way, is 531-2394. Feel free to call and get filled in on the possibilities here. James, we have another segment coming. We have a third segment, and we'll share that with you. We'll be right back. You will see this segment will carry through. It will credit the video that Mark Lakeman's group has made out there in Portland, and they're sharing their experience with the rest of us for a good reason, because this thing is a kind of a snowball, as Tim has said. So we'll break, but we'll be right back.
Intersection repair is City Repair's major project. It is a project where a group of neighbors can transform an ordinary neighborhood intersection into a vibrant public place. The Village Building Convergence was an incredible event that brought together thousands of people around the idea of intersection repair. It brought together experts in public placemaking, in permaculture and natural building, public planners and architects from all over the country, as well as many people from Portland who got their hands right in the dirt and in the paint and were building public places around the city.
In the beginning, this event, this convergence, was about coming together to build the villages in our neighborhoods. And what it's turned out to be is this 10-day building of our village here. And as we look around, these are the villagers that have been working for the past 10 days at all of these different sites throughout Southeast Portland.
Village Building Convergence is a 10-day period of time, a burst of kind of cooperative engagement in which citizens come outside and they work together to transform spaces into places.
During the Village Building Convergence, we were building community not only theoretically, but also with our hands.
Hey, I feel great. Covered with paint, that's how it's supposed to be.
Everybody can come and paint if they want to. Like some people that I know that don't even live in this neighborhood and come here and paint. And it's good to know them if they're from a different neighborhood.
A bunch of different people have been participating in this. The children and the families came out and painted the intersection. Then we have some expertise carpenters in the neighborhood that are helping us out with building the trellises and putting down the concrete and things like that. So it's a great way to build social capital in the neighborhood and get the neighborhood together.
A lot of neighbors wanted to do something better. They wanted to build for the future. They wanted a place set for the kids. So that was motivation for us to do something.
We are engaging people where they live, and they're building new relationships. They're creating physical artifacts that encourage them to communicate and gather after the fact. And then as Portlanders, the general population, moves through the fabric of the city, they see these artifacts and they interact with them, and the stories continue, the stories broaden and deepen, and they inspire other actions.
What's been really great about the intersection repair projects that happened as part of the Village Building Convergence is that neighbors' lives are changing. They know each other better, and the connections that have been made have really changed their lives in positive ways.
People more and more are saying, what do we do now? How do we bring it out? How do we make this every day? It's been amazing to just share meals every night together. We've created this village where we've lived, worked, played, celebrated, cried, built, everything together. And people feel that and are taking that home and want to make that happen even more.
I'm now talking to my neighbors that I haven't ever met for the 5 years I've lived here. And now we're all getting together and we're celebrating each other's birthdays together, and we're not building anything yet, but we have gained so much just by this process of coming together and learning what are the steps that are necessary to build our community and to create what we want on our sidewalks.
I would tell the average person the key to what happened here at City Repair in Portland is people talking to each other. So the first step is go talk to people, reach out, sit on your porch, and then the next step is I think you'll very quickly find that there's a hub of people who feel like they'd like more too, and that's when it's time to seize the space and create your own plaza, even if it's the street like these guys did.
What we'd really like to see is people in other places taking on these ideas, making them their own, and transforming the intersections in their own neighborhoods.
Intersection repair and city repair have demonstrated that the practice of city planning in the United States is incomplete in its failure to provide for public space.
If we're ever going to really change the world, we need to do it one step at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one piazza at a time.
It's my hope that people stand up and say, this is my city. And we're not just talking about Portland, Oregon, we're talking about everywhere.
So, folks, we're back. You know, you've seen this idea of how you can change intersections by painting them and then taking them over at various times, you know, with permission of the City Council, of course. And that evolved. That was all an evolutionary process. Speaking of that, I just heard about an interesting process, James, I'm going to kind of kid you a little and say your beloved London. James, of course, is a Scot, and so there's a little irony there. But you have London, and they saw their lack of plazas or places, and they actually, from government land and stuff, created Trafalgar Square. But they found that it was impossible with the thousands of landowners to create any more. So it's kind of an interesting sidelight that with all of their will and power in the great city of London, 20 million people, the only actual square they were able to create was Trafalgar Square, you know, just down a couple blocks down from Big Ben and right across the street from the National Museum there in London.
But they do have the most wonderful lung in the middle of a city that I believe is the most wonderful place, is St. James's in Hyde Park. When you go to London and you're exhausted with shopping, you're exhausted with sightseeing, all you do is you go into Hyde Park and you're gone from everybody. There's a pond there, there's all sorts of wild birds, it's quiet, and it's populated like you would not believe. People go walk there, they go picnic, they go have lunch, they do all these kinds of things. Now, Missoula has some of that in that Caris Park and other open spaces. Admittedly, we have all the wilderness beside us, but it's essential to preserve those and make those part of the scene. But I'd like to comment on your fact that what that comment was there, that governments do not create community.
Yes,
We have to be, like Tim was saying, we have to make the lead and say to the government, this is what we want. How can you get the laws and how can you get the organization behind it? But this is what we want. And government must be responsible to us under our guidance and our control to say this is how we want our city to develop. Because that's what government's all about. They can't create community. We can.
And everyone in Missoula knows that 30 years ago, the riverfront was, well, rather shabby. And look at what we've done now. And we have a chance here, especially for long-term people, or if you're new and you want to really build the future here in Missoula, we have a chance to do something. All that we have to do is show just a couple of people that there are people in Missoula that do care. We care about our children. We want to give them a place, a safe environment to do things, to learn things, and to not only get in touch with each other, but to get in touch with the spiritual side. Because there's great opportunity over here to bring in bands. We'd like to bring in some Christian bands. That's one of the fastest growing segments of the music industry. We'd like to have a daycare that's free to subsidize daycare. Everyone in town here, I mean, one of the main things that the city council talks about is a living wage and the problem with the low end here. And here's an excellent opportunity for us to have a free or subsidized daycare where people can come and have a safe environment. It's an excellent chance for some of the older people in town to get involved, to help keep it low. We'll be able to keep our prices down because we have the space is paid for. And one of the ways we're looking at financing this is in between the gym and the auditorium are 2 floors. And the upper floor is roughly about 7,000 square feet. And we're looking at renting that out to a group that would be along our lines. I mean, we're not looking at a total commercial venture, but something that has community value. But still, they're looking for reasonable rent in this town. We can charge them a reasonable rent and then use that money, which would be roughly $40,000 to $50,000, have a positive cash flow, and that would help to subsidize other programs like this daycare that I've talked about, like a teen center on the weekends. There's the possibilities are endless. All we need is a little bit of help, just a little bit. You know, St. Francis Xavier, this school was built with probably over 100,000 bricks. If one person carries all those bricks, it takes a long time. If 1,000 people carry the bricks, they only have to carry a few bricks. If you'll come and just carry 1 or 2 bricks for us, we'll get something beautiful built that we can all be proud of for future generations.
Well, Tim, those are...
How do you
yeah.
get a hold of us? Well, if you want to call us by phone, it's 543-2394. If you're not computer literate and you want to do it the snail mail or the old-fashioned way or your way, the address is P.O. Box 7631, Missoula 59807, and on the net, it's www.xavierfoundation.net.
I'll repeat that phone number, 531-2394. Is, NI 531-2394, and of course www.xavierfoundation.net. And I do believe that we have, that people are starting to take a look at this both inside the parish and outside, taking a look at the possibilities here. And the Catholic Church has a great history of doing things like this. For instance, an example being the Catholic Youth Organization, CYO. Many of us have participated in, whether we're Catholic or not, we've gone to CYO dances, we've played in CYO basketball and other sports leagues, volleyball and other sports leagues. These things flourished right here in this part of Montana. I was talking to somebody from Butte not long ago. Hey, they had CYO there in Butte. CYO flourishes right now as we speak out in the Diocese of Seattle. Every parish has a CYO. So yes, CYO does these things, dances, all the activities we're talking about. And so here's a potential CYO center for the Catholic Church to contribute to the fabric of Missoula, as it were. Tim?
Right, and you need to understand that we're coming into crunch time now. In our next show, which I hope you watch, we're really going to elaborate on the structure of the deal. We'll show you exactly what's going on, what they're proposing, and what we're proposing. It's pretty tough to do much in a parking lot in the middle of winter. And we all know in Montana, about 3 to 6 months of the year, it's rather inclement. And
it's good. Yeah, that's a good point, because the reference was made to this by James, to the St. James, is it called St. James Park or and Hyde Park? And of course, there are the other ones. There's the famous one out there that, oh gosh, we stayed by when we were in London. But at any rate, it's further out though. It's escaping me, but it's this very, very large commons, very large, Hampton Heath. Hampstead Heath. Hampstead Heath.
Yes, yeah, Hampstead.
Wow, the size of that place, right in London.
Yep.
I saw a sight there I'll never forget, and that was people, they were jogging in the park with their instructor, but when they came to a hill, the instructor stopped them and had them turn around, and they went down the hill backward. And so it's just one of those things that, I mean, Tim's laughing. I mean, Tim's traveled to China and Italy and France and Medjugorje and so many places. But no matter what happens, when you travel, things happen to you, such as seeing people go down the hill backward. But be that as it may, we keep, they say hope springs eternal within the human breast. And so we keep nurturing this hope that the people that do control the buildings, take a look and not allow them to sit empty any longer, because it's almost like an emergency. An empty building is a type of emergency. People will say, well, gee, nothing's happening. What are you excited about? A lot is happening. The building is empty. That's an emergency. Tim?
Well, talking about an empty building and what's gone on in Missoula, they were almost ready to tear down the building that MCT is in.
Yeah, Missoula Children's Theater, yeah.
Right, and look what they did to that building. And as I've traveled around, one thing that you notice if you wander around the world is how blessed we are. And there is no other country that destroys and squanders its resources like we do here. We're doing something for the little people in Missoula, something for the community where we can get together. There'll be no free subsidized daycare if this building goes down. There'll be no teen center if this building goes down. It's time to act, and time to act now. We're doing all that we can. All that we're asking you is to carry 1 or 2 little bricks. Make a phone call. Say you're interested. This is your community. All you have to do is do a little bit. because a whole bunch of people doing a little bit, it turns into a mountain of work and something we can all be proud of. And our phone number is 531-2394. Give us a call. We'd like to hear from you.
And I think if you want to preserve this campus on your journey through life, physically by going and touching the buildings and walking on the actual stones, if you want to do it visually by just seeing it and walking around it, and also spiritually, because there is a spiritual resource right on that campus, which is open to the public. It's there. So if you want to preserve this and keep it in your future and your descendants' future, then we need some help.
Well, and these are, the point was made about the green open spaces, and right now we're in the dead of winter with below zero weather here in Missoula, and so in a sense the analog, the analogy with the green open spaces here is actually a heated place, a place where you can be in a warm environment is the equivalent of a green open space. It's the place where you can find joy and community because of the fierce conditions outside. Parking lots just don't cut it, folks, and that's what we're about.
Parking lots don't keep people in the downtown. They don't keep people in the north side. They don't encourage people to come in. I mean, they're only places to come in to do something else,
Sorry, well, this is, like Tom was saying about the green open spaces, this is an excellent opportunity for a green pasture for people to come and be nurtured, to interact, to build new relationships, to meet new people from other sides of the town. It's a very central location. It's easy access off the freeway. All the main streets come in. It's such an ideal location, and of course, it's paid for. We don't have to raise a bunch of money, and that's so key. No one likes to, if somebody wants to donate a lot of money, that's great, because we can use that to offer more programs and make it even nicer. But we already have 30,000 square feet of building paid for, a beautiful auditorium, and a beautiful gym. Come and help us.
Well, you've seen the footage from the City Repair Project, and those folks have, actually worked hard and to create those piazzas, to create those painted intersections. And interestingly, what has grown out of those things is people donating their front yards that were adjacent to those areas to build small public buildings or shelters,
trellises,
mailboxes, community gathering places, and you saw glimpses of that. So that this city repair project is a rather large undertaking that does grow. So it's not just the intersections. From the intersections has come larger undertakings that have all been fun. And I guess what happened was that over time, just starting with the painting of it was the beginning of creating community amongst neighbors that really didn't know each other.
Right. They'd lived together for a long time, but they'd never had a place to interact or a reason. And we just go about our life, we get up, we go to work, and here's an excellent opportunity to form a community, to help people, and we all benefit. Everyone benefits from a healthy community. And I've pointed out some of our major things we're trying to get at is subsidized to free daycare for people. We have a safe environment for teens to come. We'll have a nice gym for people to get in shape. We're the overweight, the supersized crowd. Well, we need to supersize this building. And there won't be the access that there will be if we just come together as a community, both Christian, non-Christian. Let's do this for the good of our children, for the good of the future of Missoula.
Well, we have every hope that new look is being taken at this, but we would very much like for there to be community involvement in guiding the future of those buildings. As Tim says, let's all participate. We are Save St. Francis Xavier School. That's the name of our organization. We are also the Xavier Foundation, which is ready and poised to find funding and uses for the building. We have a website, xavierfoundation.net. We're delighted to have you here. If you're viewing this There will be a second show of this footage, so feel free to call Missoula Community MCAT, Missoula Community Access Television, for the times of the shows. Remember that every Tuesday at 4:30, that you will be every Tuesday at 4:30 for the next several weeks. There will be one of these shows will be shown from the past reruns. So we're just out there, we're talking to people, and we feel that the enthusiasm is building, and we're just really grateful to have you with us, and come on aboard, or as they say, come on in. The water's fine. We are Save St. Francis Xavier. Thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you, folks. Bye-bye.